I like to ask thank you. Welcome everyone to my mindset series. Permit me to start with a quote from Martin Luther King that says that if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. I'll take another quote quickly. It says that there are only 2 days in a year when nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other one is called tomorrow. Today is a great day to believe, to take action, and to grow. My name is Pata Dapo, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to my Mindset series. I'd like to introduce my guests today. We have Dr. Omoro Dion Ine with us. We also have Victor Aro, and we are also expecting other people to join us. But while we are expecting them, I'd like to throw the mic to Dr. Omorodio Ine to shed some light on the muscle, the brain as a muscle. And our topic for today is how men allow their mindset affect every decision they make. So, Dr. Omorodio, the mic is, I am calling you to start up to share how just to explain to us why the brain is a muscle and how it can grow.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me on this show. Pat and I go back a long way, so it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here today. Just like you said, the brain is literally a muscle, like every other muscle in the brain, in the body. And medically, we all know that the way these things work, it's if you don't use it, you kind of tend to lose it. So when it comes to the brain, it's no different. It's about exercising it. It's about training it. It's about feeding it with the right nutrients, really, information, so that it can continue to grow. It can continue to develop both structurally and functionally. The brain, as we all know, is probably one of the two most important organs in the body with the heart. But the brain is where everything really happens. It's where you think, it's where you feel, it's where, you know, it's what controls everything we do physically. So it's important to remember that it's not just for thinking, it's used for planning, it's used for executing, it's used for processing all sorts of information. Um, and it's if as individuals, as persons, we strive to grow, we strive to develop positively in all that we do, and um, that's what the brain is there for. We cannot allow ourselves to stop to grow, to develop. As a matter of fact, if you stop developing, you really are going back a little bit. So if you is it okay if I just take this quick call? Is work related? So 1 second.
Hello, I hope we are all still on board. Victor Arrow, I'm throwing the mic to you. Dr. Morojo needed to take a call. So, Victor, what do you think about men and having their mindset, how men allow their mindset affect every decision they make? Victor Arrow, are you still with us? Victor Arrow, can you please unmute yourself? Admin, can you help unmute Victor Arrow so we can hear him? Okay, while we are waiting for them to join us back, I'd like to also give more light on what we are talking about today. Now, one thing we should know is that mistakes come often when you are trying to do something new. And if you don't try anything new, getting better is out of the question. Failure and mistakes are a part of our overall journey, not a sign that we are on the wrong path. Now, most people take mistakes as a means to run away from trying something new. So this is the mindset we are saying to men. Do you give up at any just one trial, two trials? And do you have that mindset that it is a man's world? A woman doesn't necessarily is not important to the growth in the family, the growth in our society, the growth in the workplace. So, Victor Arrow, if you are still with us, can we hear from you, please?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, my apologies. So I happened to be on call, so that was you can hear me?
Yes, Dr. Omorodon, you're back on, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you can go ahead, please.
So, like I was saying, effectively, if we stop developing, we kind of go back. Really, we go backwards rather than staying where we are. And the mindset is something that's made up of so many different parts. Information from how we were raised, how we were educated, our temperament, our emotions, and how all of these things interact with our day-to-day environments and how we process them. So it's for those who don't have the right composition of all of this, then there can be a chance that mental health difficulties will develop. For those who are better equipped, they are less likely to develop mental health challenges. And we see all of these things every day. We all see them in people we know, people we see around. And some people are functioning on a day-to-day basis, but psychologically they're struggling. Psychologically, they are not as robust as others. So it's particularly important that we treat the brain like we treat every other aspect of our body. People go to the gym to exercise their heart. People go to the gym to exercise all the other muscles in the body, but not many people take the time to do exercises for the brain, puzzles, quizzes, learn the right foods to eat, to develop, learn how to cope emotionally, learn how to interact with other people, either close relationships, casual relationships. We really don't take all of those things seriously enough. How do we plan for the future? How do we make sure that we remain ambitious in our family lives, in our professional lives, in our relationships? So these are some of the things that I believe we'll be looking at, and why it's important to remember, like Pat said at the very beginning, that the brain is a muscle and needs to be treated as such. Yep. Okay. Hello, Pat. Hello.
Apologies. I didn't know I was muted. Okay, I'll take that again. While Dr. Morodio Ine was talking, someone came in, Henry Ezelu, would like to welcome you and would like to throw the mic to you now. So can you shed some light on how men allow their mindset affect every decision they make?
Well, what I would say basically is the values of most of the men. Your values determine your mindset. most people that we know, and basically our friends and our relations, their upbringing has usually affected their mindset. From my own experience dealing with people and also counseling, you already have a decision, of they've taken a decision even before they come to you to ask for an advice. So it's usually very difficult for you to change that mindset because they've been influenced externally by people. And that mindset is just for them to be able to validate the decision they've taken before they come to you. And usually it's very difficult to change. Why? Because if you look at the background of most of the men that we have, they've been affected by the social, political environment they found themselves. And because of that, it's usually pretty difficult to change them. One thing I've also discovered is that their level of exposure will also determine their level of mindset. And if you are really not exposed, you have a basic mindset that will be very difficult to change. And that's one thing I've discovered about most men today in Nigeria. And most of those things have also affected the decisions they've taken over the years. And most of those decisions they've taken has apparently affected, what would I call it, probably their future and probably also their destinies. So I think usually it's the foundation of the men initially that has also basically affected their mindset. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Henry. Now we're taking the mic to Victor Arrow. Please, can you unmute yourself, please? This is meant to be an interactive session.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pat.
Hello, Victor. Thank you for taking time out.
I believe you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Go on, please.
Forgive me, I've been fighting with my hands-free on this hand. What has hit me over time concerning matters like this, and particularly in the last few years, is the fact that our success in life more often than not comes down to the people we choose to spend our time with. This may all play some role so as to how successful we'll be in life. But in comparison to the impact of surrounding ourselves with people who can lift us higher, it doesn't compare. That's how smart we can be, how talented we expect ourselves to be, where we were born, the family environment we grew up in. So I am saying it that an individual may be born into riches, but live an unhappy life, while someone from more humble beginnings may obviously at one point be able to manifest their dreams in record-breaking time. So all because of the company they keep, which influences their way of thinking, and all of this may result in a mindset for success. So our habits, they actually determine the person we become. I cannot break this into gender-based, male or female, but I think this is the way things work for us.
Okay, thank you, Victor. Now, permit me, I'm going to say something. There's this saying that says this is a man's world. Most men feel that women cannot do certain things because they are women. Now, why do men have that kind of mindset? Because you have girls as children and you have wives. So would you encourage your wife or your daughter to do that thing she wishes to, no matter the thing she puts her mind? Because every day we learn something new. anybody can actually learn something and strive in it. So why is there that saying that it's a man's world? That means we are not important. We cannot be as creative as men. So can one person respond to that? I'll go back to Dr. Morodio. Please, can you take that up?
Yes. Well, I know that saying is quite popular, but I think for me, I think that's only the first half of the reality. This is a man's world, but it's a man's world ruled by women. They might be the silent partners in a lot of situations, but I believe strongly that one of the biggest misconceptions we've had as people is to underestimate the power of women in society. And sometimes even women underestimate the power they have. Yes, I know that a lot of our traditional societies are male dominated, and everything tends to go along with what the men want. But that's not only wrong, it's changing. We now know without any doubt at all that women can achieve whatsoever they want. They can do whatever they want, and exceed men if they choose to. I think that, yes, sometimes women may want to kind of take the backseat when they're in relationships, but there's no way in 2022 that I agree that it's a man's world. I have never quite agreed with it, but it's for when men want to exert themselves forcefully, I think that comes often, not always, but often from a place of insecurity. It comes from a place of wanting to be needed, wanting to be powerful. The reality is that if you are powerful, you don't need to show it. People just know. If you're doing what you ought to be doing, you don't need to go about shouting about it. Yes, physically we might be stronger on average, but that's about as far as it goes. There's no point having physical strength if you don't have the intellectual strength to go with it. So nowadays, I think anybody who's smart enough will realize that there's really nothing like a man's world anymore. It's just a world that we all live in. And if you have daughters, they can achieve whatever sons can achieve. I think there's been a huge shift from, I must have a son kind of culture that we probably all grow up in. But yeah, that's my position. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Okay, Henry, can you respond to that? While you're responding to that, can you take up, why do men feel insecure?
Well, two things about it I would rather say is that I don't think there is a perception, because I would look at it from the Bible angle. We look at the book of 2 Kings chapter 4. There was an issue of a widow that came to Elijah, and she complained and said, look, the creditors has come to take my 2 sons, and they want to take them as bond children. Elijah performed a miracle, converting the oil that she had into surplus. And she came back to Elijah and said, you know what, the thing has increased. I now have a kind of a oil farm tank. And Elijah told the woman, go and sell the oil. That's from the Bible perspective. Elijah did not say, go and tell your children to sell. So the mindset of somebody saying that the women have always been at the background is false. I will use my own grandmother as an example, my paternal grandmother. She used to deal in clothes and she used to sell a lot. So in my own family, we also have more women than men. And I've seen that my father was able to educate all of them, and some of them have become successful in life. But the mindset is also the same thing, like Doctor said, it depends on the family you also come from. The days of saying that, look, the male child are more important than the female child is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Because we ask ourselves a question, what if all your children are female? Although some men still try as much as possible to be able to still look for a male child, but it still causes confusion in the family. If you look at the statistics of Nigeria, especially from Eastern Nigeria, because I schooled in the East, the bulk of my classmates and schoolmates were women because most of their men went into business. Now they have a problem now. The problem is that most of the educated females are forced to marry outsiders, one, and the ones that are being educated are just marrying the people that are not educated just to stay in the home or in the culture they find themselves. But the mindset is that once you educate a woman, it's very difficult for you to change the worldview of that woman. So education is what really matters and what has really changed the mindset of most of us, that a woman should stay in the house, a woman should not work, a woman should also become an housewife. Although this is an interactive section, but I'll give you an example. Last year, a man died and he was working in a bank. The wife was an housewife to the core with about 3 children. I heard the story. And the problem there was that when the man died, before the man died, he told the wife never to work. But the man died in his 50s. Now, because he died early, the woman had to collect all the terminal benefits she going to the man. And this woman that I've never worked before, I now said, look, how is she faring now? And the woman now said that, look, she wants to go into business. And I asked, what kind of business does she want to go into? She says she wants to start selling plastics, plastic bucket, plastic bowls, everything plastic. Because they have to survive. So they
we've lost you, Henry. We can't hear you anymore.
the mindsets of people have to change. Forget it. Anything can happen to you. Those days are gone because and it's going to be very difficult for you to say by force through the economic situation. And the thing that the mindset is beginning to change because of the economic situation we find ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henry. From what you just said about the man that passed on, Victor, I'd like to throw this to you. Now, most men, when they are filling out forms, maybe in a bank or something, they don't usually put their wives as next of kin. Now, just imagine like the story Henry just told us, and the man passes on. How do you expect the wife to cope with the kids you have left behind? Can you respond to that, please, Victor?
That's a tough one to answer.
But can I just ask something? Sorry to chip in.
No, it's okay.
Who do they put as next of kin?
Honestly, I will tell you this. I worked in the bank for 12 years, and most men I open their accounts for, they're either putting their brother, their sister, or some of them their first son. 80% of men I opened accounts for while working in the bank, they did not put their wives as next of kin.
And the women married the wrong man.
No, please, no. This boils down to enlightenment. Growing up, a lot of persons would have heard so much about like what part I just said now. It's a man's world, and
which is
people
very risky
grew up with such mentality.
Happened also. And when he died, he used his first son as a careful. Sir?
Go on, please.
Sorry, Henry, you were saying something now. Okay, Victor, can you carry on, please?
Okay. So what I was just saying now is the fact that what we pick along our growing age, it says so much about what we end up to be in life. The environment, like I said earlier, the environment we grow in, the people we grow with, the kind of friends we have. If this is what they have, this is their mentality, I would grow up with this mentality. If they say it's a man's world, then that is what it is. I would grow up and say, this is what I am going to do. If I have to fill those columns, I would not put my wife's name there. But basically, what we know as the fact, what we hear, and the last person that made that statement that, well, the ladies would have met the wrong guys. What we know as the fact is what they have as their fact, is what we have learned with time. So when people say everything in life is arranged to the advantage of men, that's actually in this part of the world. If you go to Europe or to some other parts of the Western countries, it's not like that. The women have the advantage. So you cannot say it's a man's world there. So, but if we look at where we are coming from, I won't say from the Stone Age. I don't know how that one was. But women were actually, in Africa, women were actually in the house. The men go out to farm, the men go out to hunt, the men go out to fish, and then they come back home. And that's what they've been teaching their generations. Let the men go out and work. So when a man grows up today and says, my wife should stay in the house and take care of the children and take care of the house, it may not be because he doesn't love his wife. That is just his understanding of how to love his own wife and take care of the family. Let her stay in the house. It's not education that makes us what we are today, 100%, no. So I think this whole thing it has to do with the circle of people that would push this information in us as we grow up. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Can I chip in?
Sorry, Dr. Mordon, can I just come in here? I heard what you just said, Victor. Now, I like to say this. Dr. Mordon, at the beginning, explained that the brain is a muscle. Now, you have to challenge your brain. You have to grow by learning something new. How can a woman learn something new when she's in one place every day, nothing changes? So that is a fixed mindset that let her stay. Yes, the children are growing. Those children from infant grow into adolescence and adulthood, but the woman is in one place. So are you saying that in that sense, the woman should not grow learning something new? She should just be there while everybody else is growing and she's just in one place. Can we quickly respond to this?
Yes, may I please? I think there are two things you've mentioned that I want to touch on, and the answer to both are very linked. Talking about men who open bank accounts or whatever form of formal documentation and use people other than their spouse as next of kin or main beneficiary, versus what you also just said about men wanting women to stay in one place and not develop. You see, the thing is, I think it boils down to insecurity and control. A lot of people, when people feel insecure, they do everything they can to regain control, and they will do everything they can to take power away from the other person. It's just how the mind works. Nobody likes to feel vulnerable or threatened. See, there might have been men in the past who filled out forms in banks or businesses and were reluctant to use their wife's names because they had maybe more than one wife, or a wife and concubine, or they had children from more than one woman, and the politics of getting involved, of putting just one woman down as the main recipient, meant that the children from the other women. So there, to some degree, there was logic to it. But if a man has one wife and X number of children and is trying to raise a modern family, trying to raise a cohesive family, and he still feels insecure enough to use his wife, his spouse, his partner, really is. So your wife is not your subordinate. Your wife is your partner. If you do not trust your partner enough, you see, if you go into business, you go and you have a business partner, you set up your business so that if you're not there, your business partner makes decisions. It's the same thing at home. So if, and I stand by what I said, even though I said it casually earlier on, if a woman is in a marriage where her husband does not see her as a partner for their family investment, I think she's in the wrong marriage. That's my personal opinion, and people are welcome to disagree. Well, also, if a man has a partner and doesn't want that partner to develop, doesn't want the wife to go to work to improve, yes, there might be circumstances within the family, maybe when the children are little, the balance, sometimes it's about finances. Sometimes if you have to pay for childcare, then it doesn't make sense for two of us to work. So maybe if you take a few years out because it'll be cheaper and it'll be better for the children, that's fine. But if the standpoint is that because you are a woman, you should never walk outside the home, then that man is already limiting the potential for his family, including the children, because he feels insecure and he wants to retain absolute control. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry, can you quickly respond to round up? We have just 5 more minutes to round up this meeting. So Henry, can you just quickly chip in something?
What I will say, thank you very much, is a paradigm shift now basically going on because of technology. Technology has assisted most families, especially the women, to advance. I'll give you an example. A man was sick recently and he had to be admitted into the hospital. But because he had an ATM card, now the days of next of kin is over. The thing there was that they needed to get money. He was the only one that knew the PIN number to his ATM so that they could slot it into the POS. He never told his wife before. But at the point of death, because he knew death was coming, he had to surrender his ATM card to the wife and told the wife the PIN number in order for him to survive. Those are some of the things men have always kept as secret now that has become open as a result of technology. And I'll also give you an example. I also know an old man now that is a pensioner that didn't used to release his ATM cards to anybody. But because he's old now and because he's also an invalid, more or less, he can't go out, he has also released his ATM card to the daughter to be able to allow him to get into his finances. So I think because of the paradigm shift we have through technology, most women now are enabled and have the strength to be able to compete in this modern world. Thank you very much.
Okay, Victor, can you round up, please?
I like what the last speaker just said. I believe that's Henry. Yes, there's a paradigm shift, and people are beginning to understand a lot of things. When men do all of these things, in most cases, it's ignorance. It's not out of insecurity, but things are beginning to change. And I believe there's a balance in this. With time, we would get to understand that we would train our growing kids on how to balance things. So whether a male or a
We've lost you,
female, so that when they get to that stage, they will change. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I appreciate, and this was very inspiring. I hope we'll have a part 2 of this so that we can talk more about it. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.